Hello, this is Greg Smalley with Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast, joined today by Giles Edwards in one of those two directions. We have no guests this week, so it's just Giles and I talking about new releases. How are you, Giles?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
As good as can be expected, I suppose.
Okay.
And it can be expected that I'm pretty damn good.
Excellent.
Except that for some reason, I closed out of the screen share
Well,
that I meant to have up.
I don't think at this point it would be a proper Pod 366 without a little trouble.
If I had it ready to go, it wouldn't be.
And seeing as we have no guest, this will nicely help to pad out.
Totally breaking tradition for me to be ready with the proper. And I had it up. I don't know why I took it down. That's just what I do. It's always the last window too. Okay, can you see?
Hey,
I have our full slate up there.
That's a nice looking spread.
Okay, that's what we're going to be talking about. So I'm taking them off one by one, and we'll start out with this one, which is probably the major release of the week. Giles, do you recognize the still?
I do. That is from the story within the story within the story of a film that I think came out, I think this past Monday, that I watched only yesterday. It is a still from the small storytelling sequence told to a young girl who is the main character of Moon Garden.
Okay, and Moon Garden is in a few theaters this week, just released. And you have seen it.
Yes.
I think it's just it's one of those that is debuts in New York City and then slowly spreads its way across major cities, playing only in cities with sort of deep niche art house theaters, and the rest of us will have to wait for video on demand. But in the meantime, you've seen it, so you can give us a little bit of a lowdown on it.
Sure. What I'll mention first is actually the way it was filmed. It was filmed on 35 millimeter with vintagey equipment, I'm told, lenses and the like. And the film stock it was recorded on was expired, which was in keeping with the director, who is more generally a visual artist, who focuses a lot on found item and making art from found items. So this is well keeping with his I guess prior trends I discovered from a little bit of research. It is about a young girl, 5-year-old girl's journey through her subconscious after a stair fall accident in the middle of a fight that her two parents are having. She storms out of the room, heads towards the stairs, and things go badly downwards, and she is trapped in her mind with occasional visions of what's going on, in reality, but mostly her journey through various recesses of her subconscious. And within the film, there is a great deal of that wonderful, found junk stuff that is prevalent in a lot of Gilliam, going slightly back. One reviewer compared it to a child's Mad God experience, which is actually fairly apt. Overall, it captures a wonderful and dark and beautiful fantasy kind of feel that also reminded me of the arc in Gilliam's lesser-known classic Tideland, where there's this number of very bad things happening, but it's viewed through this, shall we say, very creative, vibrant, and optimistic set of eyes. In this case, the girl in question, who is the daughter of the director, and gives one of the best performances I could conceptualize for a young person that age. And so watching this was a real delight while simultaneously being unnerving at times.
Okay, see, that was actually, I'm going to interview you like I would interview the director. I'm going to, that's actually one of the things that gave me not pause, but I was concerned about when you have a child actress, and particularly, I hope she's older than 5, because 5 is awful young to be acting in a movie. But they usually can't act, and it's off. Sometimes will take you out of the story. But you're saying that's not a problem here.
This is definitely not a problem. Whatever age she is, and if I were to make a mostly a guess, slightly educated guess, I would presume she's probably somewhere between 8 and 10. Certainly looks young enough for the age of the character, but there's plenty of wherewithal and as much nuance as you'd want from watching a 5-year-old perceive these things. One of my nieces is 5, and so I can tell you that there's definitely a realism for the age with the performance in this motion picture, but it isn't anything cutesy or grating or clumsy. But just a sheer sense of like hovering somewhere between being able to recognize the world that actually exists and, having the sundry adventures in one's own mind that I have consistently observed in the very young crowd.
So also the trailer will be on the site 366weirdmovies.com, obviously, along with trailers for most of the rest of the movies we're covering. If you watch that, you might get some idea of the expired film stock.
Yeah.
This still we're looking at right now does not look like it was shot on expired film stock. It's extremely crisp, and
yes,
the double image on it that's quite arresting. It's got very strong blacks, very strong reds. But what about the expired film stock? Does that really give it a unique look?
Yes, I'd say it does. There is I don't know the chemistry behind it, but there is a degradation of quality. Nothing, it doesn't, one is never confused about, what you're seeing, but the degradation of quality comes out particularly in highlighting colors. Colors are more vibrant than I'd expect in, shall we say, I'm guessing unexpired 35 millimeter. Has, I guess, maybe Super 8 might be a good comparison. If you've seen anything in either older 8 millimeter or Super 8, there's a not quite garish brightness that you find in a lot of the exposure levels for colors, especially blues and greens come out in a not quite earthly tone, whereas this is almost certainly some CGI mixed with perhaps traditional animation. But this still actually is the girl is being told a story through this series of 3 screens within this particular set piece, and this is the part of the tale of a doomed princess that she's being told about, and eventually she does meet the doomed princess, and it goes back to the more realistic but less crisp subconscious reality that she has been trapped in.
The image is kind of it's fairly creepy.
Yes.
And one of the things I find creepy about it is it looks like silhouettes of dolls, right? But a number of them appear to be impaled, although they're upright,
Yes.
which is
Those are, yeah, I don't think I'm giving anything away. Those are dead children.
oh well, it is creepy then.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and there's the other thing is the Mad God comparison. So I think in the trailer you see just a tiny bit of sort of steampunk stop motion animation, but it didn't seem to occupy a large amount of time. What about that factor?
Yeah, that tonally there's obviously the driving existentialist doom you get in Mad God, and there are, like, touches of that kind of distress within this this movie here, but a lot of it, the main parallel I'd say is there's the aesthetic of just accumulated technology debris and failure that permeates most of Mad God, except in a few of the more supernatural sequences there. But largely in the just the family of, here's a reality where everything is breaking or broken, and people are making do with what they can with the trash that's around them. So there's definitely more of that than the crushing dispiritedness of Phil Tippett's stop motion outing. And yeah, there is a good deal of stop motion. A lot of the special effects are practical, and a number of them involve stop motion. And there's a rather interesting sequence involving reverse motion, but going sort of being put forward so that there's a de-breaking of a bizarre electronic instrument that results in it becoming whole for the purposes of the scene that follows. But it's done in, you see it smashed, or you see it being unsmashed, I guess would be a way to phrase it. So yes, aside from the fairy tale the girl hears in her coma vision, it's all very tactile.
Okay, well, maybe that is more of a child's eye view, child being very literal and thinking more of objects than abstract concepts. So that's Moon Garden, which is our big release, we think, this week probably, and something that you probably won't be able to see unless you live in New York City and aren't going to one of the other movies we are featuring this week. But the rest of the stuff we've got this week, that's the only thing anybody's seen. So everything else, we're going off trailers and press releases. And so the next one up is The Cow Who Sang a Song into the Future, a movie from Chile, the cradle of magical realism, not Chile specifically, but Latin America in general. And it appears to be a magical realist type movie. In fact, that's even on the poster, quote on the poster, a magical realist eco fable. About all we can gather from the trailer and the synopsis, I think, is that woman has a heart attack, goes back to her family farm. Her dead mother has apparently come back, not as a ghost, but kind of like a flesh and blood thing. And there also appears to be some sort of catastrophe or plague in which we see a lot of dead or dying cattle and fish. And the poster features both cattle and fish, and of course the name includes cow. So I think that's about really all we have to go on. Giles, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I remember not feeling like I cared to bother with this at Fantasia last year.
Oh,
I think it was there. I don't know if it was last year or if it was one of the years that you and I both looked around remotely for this, but I really am not sure why I ignored it. The description didn't really speak to me. It would certainly be one thing, and the other, it could have possibly conflicted with something else. In the trailer, I saw something that's kind of a big warning sign for me, describing this film as elegiac, which more often than not translates into being perhaps slower than I prefer my storytelling to be. So
I will add one thing from the IMDb page. There's one user review. There might be more, but this is the featured one. And the headline on that review is, "This movie is weird," in all capitals.
huh?
And the commenter goes on to say, "It felt like a weird acid dream." So, and compared it to Jodorowsky, which I'm not so sure about because the trailer doesn't have any Jodorowsky vibe at all.
I suppose though, if they know about Jodorowsky,
Yeah.
then they probably at least have a gauge of weird at
Yeah.
that rate. So yeah, who knows?
It's a common touchstone. So that is actually, I don't think it's available on video on demand right now. It's another one I think that's on New York. I'd expect it to show up on video on demand soon, because it's, it's another niche type picture. Even for art house picture, it's not, a huge, it doesn't have a lot of huge selling points, except to us.
Okay, looks like quick Amazon. It will be available on DVD in mid-July.
Okay.
Is what these people are telling me here.
Yeah, and then video on demand generally either comes at exactly the same time or a few weeks before that. So we will get to see it in the summer. It will be available. And speaking of things that you can see, well, let's move to the next one. A new old play. This one is from China, and it is one of those dying person on the transition to the afterlife, one of those, who has lots of sort of, I gather that they're mixing sort of memories and hallucinations with his actual entry through the gates into the ghost city. It is from China. It's by a guy who previously specialized only in documentaries, and it is 3 hours long and epic. It looks like it has a very large cast based on some of the stills. What else to say about this one? Well, I think, Giles, do you have any thoughts about that from the trailer?
Yeah, I have. I watched all the trailers and supplemental material for this, and had little remarks for all the titles except for this one. And the reason behind that was I was fascinated about what was going on, but had no words really to describe my reaction to the array of vignettes that were put into the trailer. It certainly had a stage theater feel for a number of the scenes, but not all of them. And it had little bits of humor judiciously placed around, at least in the trailer for the piece. So I'm fascinated as to what it may be like. And yeah, looking quickly at the director's previous movies, as you say, they are documentaries, but it looks like they're not really standard kinds of documentaries. So this will almost certainly be interesting, probably be weird, and the question will be how, shall we say, consistently entertaining one may find it, because it is 3 hours and does look to be crafted in a contemporarily non-traditional style.
The lead character is what's been described as an opera clown, which probably is a something culturally significant to the Chinese, and it's going to be, and that's I think something I am interested in, because we don't, unlike the Japanese, who we've had a lot of contact with and make lots of movies, we really have very little Chinese cinema available to view over here. What I've seen has tended to be very slow paced, at least the art house stuff. I think they have tried to do some Hollywood style action movies as well, but the art house stuff tends to be very slow paced. I'm not sure if this is going to meet with that, but it looks like it's going to incorporate more of the traditional Chinese Buddhist mythology and culture, which I think should be interesting. And, it may be weird to us in a sort of culture clash sense. So I do look forward to watching it in that respect.
Yeah. The only weird Chinese film that comes to mind is from about 5 or so years ago, the stop motion film about a female shoe trying to get by in a male shoe dominated what have you, that definitely had more than undertones of criticizing contemporary Chinese society. That was She, or capital S space capital H lowercase e, which I saw at Fantasia, I think in a longer cut than seems to be commercially available at present. But I am very curious about A New Old Play.
There is also the Chinese director whose name escapes me, and I probably couldn't pronounce it correctly anyway, who did the movie called A Long Day's Journey into Night, that has nothing to do with the Eugene O'Neill play, but his deal is very good camera work, very long takes. I think there's like a over an hour take in that movie that move through. It's not a static camera; it moves through the scene and along a city, and it's choreographed with actors coming in and out of the frame, and just very interesting, and some very unique camera movements. But also very slow paced. But that's A New Old Play. Which is also, I should mention, that is on VOD immediately, so you can check that out. It also has a 7.8 IMDb rating, which is excellent, except it is on a very low number of votes. So probably gonna revert to the mean after more people get to see it.
Yeah, but also the fact that it's not automatically a 9 or a 10 to me suggests that 7.8 might genuinely reflect the overall quality, because a lot of the earlier reaction ones, let's look at this 10 rated movie, and it was like, oh, all 3 people thought that.
Yes, all 3 people that worked on the film thought it was a 10-star movie. Okay. So now we're getting into the kind of really rare movies about which we have very little information and very little to say. But this one obviously gets a nod based on its title alone. Title being Cosmic Disco Detective Rene, Secret Society for Slow Romance 2. This is made by a director who's I believe he's a Sri Lankan immigrant in New York City. And if you watch the trailer, which doesn't reveal much and is probably more of a teaser than a proper trailer, there's a lot of footage of New York City prominently displayed. That he had made a previous movie, believe it or not, called Secret Society for Slow Romance 1. It does exist. Apparently there was no cosmic detectives in it. And his other movie was a comedy titled Werewolf Ninja Philosopher. So I don't know how his movies are, but his titles get 10 out of 10.
Oh wow, Werewolf Ninja
Titles,
Philosopher.
yeah.
New York City-based werewolf, ninja philosopher, private detective. Someone is killing art filmmakers in New York City. Well, that sounds promising.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, we should probably go back and check out Werewolf Ninja Philosopher, because that sounds great. But this is the one we have before us today. The trailer, like I say, not much to go on. It's just a bunch of shots of New York City and of people walking around, frequently walking backwards.
The
Another
tune is
weird
quite
thing
catchy.
about this, it has immortal time travelers in it. We know that. And
Yeah.
that's the source of the mystery. I thought something that's very strange about it is it's a New York City based movie that for some reason is debuting in Glendale, California only, at an art theater there, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but seems to fit somehow fit this strange movie. um, I thought I had one more comment about it, but do you have any more comments, Giles?
No, other than the quick thing I said before, had a great little tune going through the trailer as
Oh yeah, I
well.
like the music. Yeah.
So even though it was vague doings, it was like, oh yeah, it's bounced along quite nicely.
And the poster says it is a comedy, which is definitely going to help, because when you have this kind of low budget and you're dealing with these kind of obviously probably volunteer actors and probably a volunteer crew,
No.
you don't want it to be too stuffy and dramatic, for sure. You want them to be loose and having fun. And I think that's what this is going to do. Although, the comment I was going to make is I did find the Twitter site for this. And although I had decided to cover it this week, the debut has been moved back to July 7th. So, oh well. Anybody in Glendale, California now has plenty of advance notice. And I would expect this to be probably on Tubi soon afterwards. But it's interesting, Mike. It's I gotta say, when you get a title like that, you got my interest. Another one that's another indie, probably a bigger budget indie than this.
Yeah.
Definitely a bigger budget because of the two actors they got for cameos. This is On Our Way. And it's by I forgot her name, but Sophie
Lane Curtis.
Sophie Lane Curtis, like Jamie Lee Curtis, only Sophie Lane. And she's an actress directing her first movie. She is also probably the co-lead in it, or the second most important character. And she got Vanessa Redgrave and Franco Nero to a cameo in it as grandparents of some sort. I have seen a clip from it with them in it, which is very cool. If you can get some older actors who are near retirement to come and be in your low budget movie, more power to you. I think it's great. I mean, actors probably love to act. The director loves to have them, and that's great. Movie, it's hard to really get a sense about. It's a movie by a first-time director about a first-time director. So
it's like just like Man Under Table,
yeah. And there is a mysterious muse in it, obviously played by the director. And if you watch the trailer, I believe it's going to be weird. There are only a few bits of imagery that give you that idea. There is a large bank of television monitors on a beach, and that is enough for me to say, yeah, it's going to be weird. What do you think, Giles?
Oh, I'm hoping you're volunteering to check it out. The minute whatever that sweeping score musical cue began in the trailer was the minute I became incredibly distressed at the prospects, because it just sounded really emotionally manipulative, and then all the rest of the trailer was a lot of like, oh, live and create. It's like, yeah, guys, get over yourselves. As one of the muse, possibly the muse, someone else, no, I think friend of the director says it's only a movie, and I want to say, I might like that friend. My fingers are always crossed with every title we talk about here, certainly with this one, but I won't be volunteering to cover this.
All right. Well, you don't have to. You can stick with keep doing Moon Garden over and over every week.
Oh, no, I can watch that 3-hour Chinese movie.
Do the 3-hour Chinese one. There you go. That can be spread over 2 days. Yeah, well, the one thing in the trailer I didn't like is I tend not to like the trailers that start with the lead character narrating. Even in movies, that can be kind of it often can be seem a little lazy that they're setting the stage with voiceover narration. I can tolerate it though. That's not a big thing. But moving on to something that is only of interest to New Yorkers and only a select few. This is a rare event. So New Yorkers, I believe it started yesterday, I think it started yesterday. Although it'll be running for about 2 weeks. It's Matthew Barney's The Cremaster Cycle. It says and select early works, but looking at the website, I couldn't determine what they were talking about. It didn't seem to have anything else listed. The Cremaster Cycle by Matthew Barney, a legendary series of 4, I believe it's 4 movies of various lengths. Giles, do you know about the Cremaster Cycle, or do I have to fill everybody?
I think you should field this.
All right. So these movies came out in the 90s, and they are basically, Matthew Barney is, I believe, started as a sculptor and became a filmmaker. They are definitely art installation pieces, not narrative movies. I first encountered the legend of the Cremaster Cycle by reading a very appreciative article in Harper's Magazine that describes such scenes as this scene with the blimps in the arena, and also a bee flying out of a boy's penis. And at the time I read it, I thought, wow, this guy wrote an article-length parody of art movies, because this movie can't possibly really exist. And later I found out, indeed it does. It's sort of famous. It's grown its legend because Barney refuses to allow it to be put on DVD, with some caveats. And it's never gotten a really wide distribution, but it's spread by word of mouth, and it's screened very seldomly. And as a matter of fact, I think this is the first time it's screened in years for sure. So not many people have seen it. It's become legendary. There was one segment from one of the films was released on DVD and then quickly withdrawn, and became very valuable. A few people saw it. And there was another DVD release limited to 20 copies that sold for thousands of dollars each. So Matthew Barney has at least marketed the film well to where nobody has seen it, the films, because there are 4 of them, to where nobody has seen it, but everybody talks about it. And also my second thing I'll say about Matthew Barney is the legendary quality. It tends to maybe make one's hopes get too high, because when I finally saw an actual Matthew Barney movie, it was weird, it was good, but there was nothing, really outstanding or special or unique about it. It just looked like an art house movie of the type you've seen before. That movie I saw was called Redoubt. I got to see it on a screener, but it also is not available anyway anywhere. We do have a trailer. I don't know who made it or where it came from. It's pretty low quality footage on the site. Any further thoughts, Giles?
Yeah, the trailer I saw, it looked like a series of very intriguing GIFs. And as you say, it makes a lot more sense now that you put it into words, art installation piece. I read very briefly into what it's just in theory exploring, and digs at Masons and child abuse and other such heady things. So yeah, kudos for crafting a legend, which if that's the ultimate goal, that's kind of neat. But as a general rule, I don't like art being so, well, elitist isn't quite the word, but this is obviously very limited in distribution. And if you have a vision and are going to hoard it, I'm going to approach the work very skeptically.
Yeah, I will say the cremaster is the muscle that raises the testicles.
Yes,
And
that
that's
was the other, yes, the third thing.
So it's a movie about, or the movies are supposed about, coming of age and masculinity. I think the Mason stuff is from a crazy person.
Okay, it all sort of blended together equally plausibly, so I guess
Not much time left. We're running out. So we got one more. This is not a weird movie per se, but it's a movie that could be of interest to many folks. And Alfred, our dear departed Alfred Aker, reviewed it, so I wanted to get in these last final 2 minutes. Criterion Collection has released Targets, not the final movie, but the final movie anybody wants to see from Boris Karloff, where he plays a retiring horror movie icon who comes face to face with a mass shooter, the real life horror of a mass shooter, and realizes that his days of monster horror are over. I haven't seen it, Giles. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. I did read the review, and it sounds interesting, and it sounded like Alfred was a bit torn about the comparative merits and the cohesion, but it was obviously interesting enough for him to want to write about it, and I was interested enough after reading it, and particularly now seeing this, shall we say, classy looking Criterion Collection cover compared to the promotional poster, which has the quote, "I just killed my wife and my mother. I know they'll get me, but before that, many more will die," setting it up as a remarkable, terrifying, and thrilling. So I think, if only to see the tension between the two styles of story that are apparently going on, it's got to be worth a look.
Well, that marketing campaign is because it comes from Roger Corman, who this is one of those movies where he took a young director, probably his debut, I believe it's his debut, Peter Bogdanovich, and let him, gave him a bunch of money and some old footage from The Terror and Boris Karloff and some old reused sets, and said, "Make me a movie and I'll market it." And Bogdanovich did, and the rest is history. And so I would check that out on Criterion Channel. It's a movie, or Criterion Channel, probably, yes, but also on DVD. It's a movie I've wanted to see for a while, but haven't been able to. And with that, we're out of time. I was worried we would run short, but that's not going to happen. So we're going to log off right now, guys. Bye-bye, everybody.
Yeah, it was good chatting. Take care, everyone. Good luck out there.
All right.
Nice.
I'll have stuff to you soon.
Cool.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Have a good one.
You too. We're probably out.